Hey, this is Kelsey from the 767 training team. Today we're in the classroom, but I have my super cool fuel pump housing and pump and sleeve assembly here, and I'm going to show you some of the finer points of getting these fuel pumps out of the 767 aircraft spilling less than 4.9 gallons. Okay? This has been an issue in the past. For the last 20, 30 years, we've occasionally had fuel spills with getting these pumps in and out. There's been some different reasons for each one, but I'm going to give you some tips here that should help prevent this and take some of the mystery out of pulling a 767 fuel pump. All right, so here we see our housing, and right under here is what's known as our sleeve stop. Okay, you want to make sure that sleeve stop is installed. You want to make sure that it's there. We've had issues where that sleeve stop has been missing, and when the sleeve comes out, or when the pump comes out, it just pulls the sleeve with it, and you end up with a big hole in the bottom of your fuel tank, which will cause you to spill more than 4.9 gallons. I want you to undo the safety wire here, and of course I've went ahead and loosened this for the video's sake, but you get the idea. We're going to take out this plug. Now you're not going to take it all the way out, you're just going to break it loose. Alright, so we got that plug broke loose, and we are going to remove two captive screws. One of them is located here, one of them is located here, and the other one is connected to a lanyard located over here. These three screws are a number 3 bit screwdriver, as we see here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to remove this one. Okay, and you want to remove it until it's floppy in the hole. It's a captive screw, and it should just kind of be floppy in the hole. That's a technical term, being floppy in the hole. All right, there's that other one. You see, it's floppy right there. Okay, and then finally this last one here on the lanyard. This one's going to come all the way out. Okay, so you're going to see me pull the lanyard. All right, and there you see it right there, and it's just kind of hanging out right there. All right, so that now we got all the screws out. Alright, so the first tip I want to give you is we've already got the screws out of it. We've already broken this loose. We're going to go ahead and pull the pump straight out. We do not twist. We pull the pump straight out. At this point, I just want you to stop, and I want you to remove this cap right here. This is a drain. It's labeled drain on the side. We're going to pull this cap out, and we're going to get our little catch can ready, and we should get about a cup to a pint of fluid, fuel, out of this pump. If it never slows down, that's bad. It should slow down within about 4 minutes. If it never slows down, then that means we either have a hole in our sleeve or a piece of debris caught in our sleeve, and essentially we're draining the center tank through a really small hole. If it never slows down, or you don't have confidence that the sleeve is pulled all the way down, at this point, you're going to need to go to Plan B, which is draining the tank and sumping the tank. The next tip I have for you, and this is by far the most critical, this is what we see errors made the most, or hear about the most, and that is right here. Up here in the top section of our pump, we have our dog leg or paw, whatever you want to call it there, and right here we have a groove on the sleeve. Okay, and what we're actually going to do right here is we're going to twist the pump. Okay, we're going to twist the pump, and you saw that paw come down and engage that sleeve right there. This is a very, very, very critical part of this pump removal. You got to make sure that paw has come down into that sleeve. I'm going to move the pump again to kind of show you its action. So there it is, disengaged, and here it is engaged. Okay, very critical. At this point, we've pulled the pump out, we've twisted it, kind of a quarter turn. We verified that the paw is engaged. Now we're free to pull the pump out the rest of the way. Now, a real pump is going to have O-rings on it. This is my classroom demo, so of course I don't have O-rings. So mine's going to come out really easy. You're going to need to pull really hard on yours. We're talking 60 to 100 pounds of downward force. Wings have dihedral. Use the dihedral of the wings to your advantage, and make sure you're working upwing, because we're going to get about another cup of fuel out. At this point, you're then free to pull the pump straight out, and here we go. We have our pump in our hand. All right, so we have our pump out. We're getting a new pump. We're verifying the part number of the pump. This has been a real critical item, as I've already talked about. The pump has to match the sleeve, and this right here is the sleeve. This right here is the housing. All these part numbers have to work together. They're all affected under an AD. So, of course, no deviations or substitutions are allowed. If anything is funny, you need to contact Liaison Engineering and get them to sort it for you. Don't get into a situation where you misconfigure an aircraft because of an IPC reference. So just verify that the IPC is correct, and what you have is correct per the IPC. Here you see the pump assembly, the housing assembly, and then of course our pumps have a data plate on them right here. If we're ready to put in this pump, I want you to stop, and I want you to put the pump down at the bottom of the ladder. And I want you to go up, and I want you to inspect this sleeve. We have found that most of our issues regarding our fuel spills around installing this pump happen at this step right here. Crawl back up your ladder. There again, you're going to look at this sleeve. You need to look at this paw right here. This paw right here. And you need to verify that it's engaged right here into this sleeve. There's a little groove in here. You can pull down on it. You can wiggle it back and forth. There are going to be O-rings in yours, so it's going to be a little tighter. Make sure that paw's engaged. That's critical. If that paw's not engaged and you go to shove your fuel pump into the housing here, and that paw isn't engaged, what's going to happen is this sleeve is actually going to drive up and open the fuel tank to this hole. And essentially fuel is going to come rushing out of this hole. And that's because you've opened the window inside the fuel tank. Up, down in here, there's a little window that's going off to the fuel tank. Here, you can kind of see it here. So you see my fingers in there. That's fuel rushing in. The only way to stop the fuel flow, it's not by shoving the pump in harder. It's by grabbing the sleeve and pulling it down just like that. That's the only way you're going to stop the fuel flow. You got to make sure this paw is engaged before you put the pump in. Okay? All right, so now we have our pump. We're ready to go back in with it. We've already inspected and made sure the paw's in the right spot. What I like to do is I like to take this guide pin, and this one guide pin is a big pin right here. It's the longest pin on the pump. And what I want to do is I want to align that pin with that paw that we're talking about. Okay? I want to take the pump, I want to slide it in, I want to aim for that pin right there. And when I hit that pin, I make my quarter turns here. And then the next step is I push it in as hard as it'll go because the paw's keeping the sleeve down. And then I'm going to twist my pump. And what does that do to that paw? It moves it out of the way, right? So there we go. That's out of the way. Now the next step is to push it the rest of the way down until it's solid. And actually, it's not going to be fully solid or fully seated until you close the pump handle, just like that. Now we can take our screws, take our captive one here, go ahead and get it started. Okay, or our lanyarded one there, and then we're going to take our captive ones and we are going to give those a little start. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and tighten it down, and of course connect our connector, our electrical connector, and push back in our circuit breakers. And that right there is how to remove and install a fuel pump without getting wet.